That tradition feels so alive. Summer rhythms play, we're gonna thrive. Go, 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 oh, shout it aloud. In the summer sun, we're a summer-loving crowd. Talking Brazil ball, we're breaking it.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Talking Brazil Ball. We're back for another round of the Brazilian Serie A week, George. There's been plenty going on this week again. How are you doing today?
Yeah, okay, James, another week comes and goes, doesn't it? The weather's been terrible, hasn't it? But how are you doing?
Yeah, it has been pretty bad today, especially. Actually, it seems to be brightening up again now, but it's not much of a summertime we've got really yet. Is it at all? We had a nice week a couple of weeks back, and then it's been a bit kind of dire, hasn't it? But I believe you've been under the weather, haven't you?
Yes. Yeah.
Sources have told me you've been under the weather.
That's been a reliable source, has it? Yeah, I have been under the weather this week, but I'm, feeling better last sort of couple of days, really. So, yeah, feel okay, and that Botafogo result didn't perk me up much, but what can you do?
There you go. You think during the summertime, without Leeds playing, you kind of escape the weekends of pain, don't you? But following Galo, it seems to have been kind of coming back again. Anyway, you haven't had a break from it at all, have you? Really? So disappointing.
Not really. Yeah, not really. Yeah, and the disappointment comes randomly at midnight on a Monday or something like that now. So it's all around the clock.
That's the worst thing, isn't it? You don't know when you're getting it. It just that mob dagger comes and you're kind of distraught on like you say, on the evening at 1 a.m. or something. But
well, it's the sort of thing going, whoa, that then you just think, oh no, they've scored again, the other team.
Yeah, beaten again, Galo. But yeah, we're gonna look at that in a bit more depth, actually, aren't we, George? Because that's your game of the week. Unfortunately, you picked a tough one to cover your side there. But before we kind of do that, do you want to just run through the results? There has been 2 rounds, I think, hasn't there, since we last convened on Talking Brazil Ball? There have been, haven't there? Yes, there've been the full 2 rounds of fixtures.
Yeah, so we last spoke just after Palmeries has beat Corinthians 2-0 in the morning of Tuesday, the 2nd of July. So yeah, there's been 2 full weeks, James. A midweek game, if you like, a midweek match week and a weekend match week, if you like. So yeah.
Yeah, an English week they call it in Germany. I think it is when they play two games in a week.
That's right. Yeah, they do.
But we're not in Germany today, George. We're in Brazil, and we're going to run through those results. If you want to run through, so starting from that Wednesday, the 3rd of July, with Cuiabá against Botafogo, and then on to the round that we're looking at today, which I think ended. When did that end? Was that today it ended? No, yesterday, wasn't it, that Galo dagger for you? So yeah, if you want to run through them, George, and get everybody up to date, get all the listeners up to date with what's been going on.
I think the Wi-Fi went, but I'll start it up on the 3rd of July. Cuiabá 1, Botafogo 2. Thursday the 4th of July, Criciúma 1, Cruzeiro 0. Vasco 2, Fortaleza 0. Atlético Paranaense 1, Sao Paulo 2. Galo 2, Flamengo 4. RB Bragantino 3, Atlético Galo 1. Bahia 2, Juventus 2-0. Grêmio 2, Palmeiras 2. Into Friday the 5th of July, Corinthians 3, Vitória 2. Fluminense 1, Inter 1. Then into the next match day, which we'll be taking a closer look at, James, in today's episode. Sunday, the 7th of July, Excuse me. Flamengo 1, Cuiabá 1, Sao Paulo 2, RB Bragantino 0, Cruzeiro 3, Corinthians 0, Fortaleza 1, Fluminense 0, Juventude 3, Grêmio 0, Inter 1, Vasco 2, Gio 1, Atletico Paranense 2, Palmeiras 2, Palmeiras 2, Bahia 0, Vitória 2, Criciúma 1, and Botafogo 3, Galo 0 to wrap up the match day, James, on Monday, the 8th of July.
Yeah, so that's a good place to start. I think it looked like an attractive fixture on paper. Like we said last week, the battle of those teams of the black badges, Botafogo of Rio and Atletico Mineiro of Belo Horizonte. So obviously Botafogo were in much the better form going into the game. They're fighting up at the top of the table and they're kind of pulling away a little now. And Galo, it's been a real difficult period, hasn't it? They're kind of mired in mid-table. So that was your game of the week, George. Obviously, like we said, not a great watch for you. But what was kind of the story of the game from your point of view?
The story of the game, James, was I think Botafogo just battered Galo. Really, at the end of the day, they had much more of it, much more, much more sort of threat. In the end of the day, James, and you could tell they're on much better form. Basically, Galo are now unbeaten in 4. They're doing pretty well. Botafogo, only 1 defeat really now for quite some time. So, yeah, you could tell. I think Botafogo played with a lot of confidence, and Galo played with not much confidence really, James. And it was only 13 minutes old, the game, when Henrique. I'm not going to touch too much on the goals. But he put them in front, and it was a lovely finish, to be fair. And from there, Botafogo, they just didn't look back. Galo just couldn't get into the match. And to be honest with you, James, now Galo, look, sitting mid-table, like you said, they're sitting in 12th position, bang on mid-table. Not bang on mid-table, lower mid-table, if you like. And they're just not going. I think Milito, after such a really, really good start, there were, I think, 12 games unbeaten. It's now crumbling down for me. They've only won 1, I think, in 7 matches now. And they're getting some real heavy defeats. Out of the last sort of 7 games, they've conceded at least 3 goals 4 times. That's not good enough. That's not good enough at all. 4-0 against Palmeiras, 4-2 midweek against Flamengo, now 3-0 against Botafogo. And I've seen Milito's been given a bit of confidence, and I think he's got some backing off the board members at Galo, but it's not looking good at all. Not looking good at all. And Hulk keeps talking. I know he's a captain, but he just needs to do his talking on the pitch here, really. Got 2 goals midweek to no avail against Flamengo. It's just not good enough. It's not been good enough at all, and I don't think he's got much left, to be honest. As for Botafogo, like I said, few nice goals, which we'll cover a bit later on, and there's Henrique behind me there celebrating his goal. But, I mean, Arthur Jorge, he was reluctant to speak about the title challenge, but you've got to say the serious contenders here, James, they're only a point off it. It's going into halfway through. We all know what happened last season with them, but this season might be different. I think he's got them playing really, really well, really hard to beat. And I think they're going to have a shot at it. A bit of an outside shot, maybe. We know how well Palmeiras are doing, and Flamengo are up there as well. But I think Botafogo can really give them a run for the money here.
Yeah, they're in great form. Arthur George is doing a really good job. And it feels like, last year, it's a credit to them, really, for coming back and going again. Obviously, there is different management, and it was a bit of a circus at times last season, wasn't it? But they having started so well and seeing it stripped away from them in the kind of the dying couple of months, really, of the league, to come back and go again is really, you've got to say, fair play to them for having that steel about them. There's a lot of players left over there from the squad last year. Obviously, they have had some sprinkling of magic, and I think it's important to mention actually that obviously they've got Henrique, and I'm still not quite sure about when he is supposed to be going to Lyon, but just this week they've had another big transfer come in as part of the group. I can't remember what they call the group actually. The Textor kind of empire with Lyon and with Paris. They've got a name for it. I can't remember what it is, but they've actually signed Thiago Almada from is it LA Galaxy? He's been bought from. No, it's not LA Galaxy, is it? But he's Argentine international, Atlanta United. Argentine international, only 23, attacking midfielder, comes with a lot of pedigree, and he's on his way to Lyon, but he is stopping off at Botafogo. So I think he's going to be at Botafogo for the remainder of this Brasileirão season, and he's one of those players who can come in and be a star of this league for certain. I'm sure that he can. So with Henrique and Almada, and then added to what they've already got with Tiquinho and Savarino, who we're going to speak about later on as well, and the other players in there, they do feel as though they've got a proper shot this time, I would say.
Yeah, I agree with you, James, and I think it was ex-Wolves manager, wasn't it, Bruno Lage, who took them and did so well with them, this sort of time last year, and took them to around the top or even at the top, and then it crumbled. But I do agree. I think Artur Jorge is definitely a better pedigree of manager, and the squad's the same or very similar. They're adding quality to it. I know Almeida. He was either they came out or at the start of the game on Sunday night, or it was at half time. I'm not sure, but they've added on 2 players as well in the summer window. As well as him, former Everton midfield player Allen, he's joined as well. And, amongst, there's one other player as well that has come in as well. So they're adding quality to the team. Like you said, they've got that sprinkling of real star quality as well, which will no doubt help them on the way. And I think they're in a real good place, I think, at the moment, James. I think that's 1 defeat in 10 games now. So they're really going well.
Yeah, Alan will be a super signing. I mean, it wasn't long ago that he was really one of the best kind of holding midfielders in Europe with Napoli. He kind of lost his way at Everton a bit, and obviously he's not a young player anymore. But I know that he's a real coup for them. And Textor obviously isn't afraid to splash the cash, and it's paying off, and you have to say that they're in it for the long haul, really. They look like they're that third team in there, really, with Palmeiras and Flamengo at the moment. And it looks like they are going to push all the way. Just on Galo, I mean, they're now 18 points off the top. Where would you see them kind of, what do you think their goals are? Because they would have been, I mean, obviously they wouldn't have been the favourites at the start of the season and probably not the 3rd or 4th favourites, but they would have been in that mix of teams just below kind of Palmeiras and Flamengo. And it looks like it's going to be a season of more like continental qualification for them now.
Well, yeah, I think, to be honest with you, James, I think they'll probably keep going and maybe go for the Libertadores positions. They might see that as an outside chance, possibly. The Sudamericana, they expect them to get, excuse me, because all the way down to 12th position gets them, don't they? So, but for me, they've still got to go at the moment and try at least get a bit of form going and try and get to those top 4 positions. But for me, now they've got a massive game against Sao Paulo. I think it's Friday morning here in the UK. And for me, if they don't win that, it's going to be questions starting to think now, have we got to change the manager? Because before the season started, James, I predicted them not to have a good season, and it was because of the changing management, and it's looking like that was right. But hopefully they can just keep get a couple of wins together. Get a couple of wins, a bit more confidence. They've got a couple of players coming in, I think, in the mid-season window as well. Former Southampton defender. I can't remember his name actually. Lianco. Yeah, that's him. That's him. He's coming in from Southampton. He played last season, I think, in the Middle East somewhere. Unfortunately, obviously, Southampton, from my point of view, are playing Premier League football next season. But yeah, he's decided to come back to Brazil and play for Galo. But yeah, I'd say they're holding on to slim chances of the Libertadores. If not, it'll be the Sudamericano, which at the end of the day, if they can finish sort of high up in them positions and end the season well, then that's not a bad season really. If they finish in sort of 5th or 6th or something, which would actually be qualification for the Libertadores, but they'd have to go through a knockout stage, wouldn't they, James? So
they are still in the Libertadores, so they're in the last, I think it's last 16 into. They actually play on our birthday, George, on the very early hours. So that might be hopefully a early birthday present for you. San Lorenzo, they're playing in the Libertadores, the Argentinian team. So that'll be one to look out for anyway. But yeah, is there anything else you want to touch on that game quickly before we move on to the next game of the week?
Not really, James. I know we'll speak about it a bit later on. There were some cracking goals in this game, some really nice goals in this one. But overall, yeah, I just think Galo need to improve. Botafogo are on a real high at the moment, and I only see them, shooting and really getting pushing hard and putting the pressure on the top two, really.
Yep, let's see. I think that's probably a decent prediction. So my game of the week was towards the top of the table this time as well. It was Palmeiras and Bahia. So going into the game, these two were actually level on points. And Bahia, obviously, we've spoken about quite a bit, kind of punching above the weight. So far this season, Palmeiras have obviously come into some fantastic form recently as well. So this looked like for me, it was one that kind of would either see Palmeiras properly lay down their marker as the title contender, or it would be Bahia who would confirm their place as a team who are not going to go away from the top kind of segment of the table. And in the end, Palmeiras quite predictably won it really, but it was 2-0 in the end to Palmeiras, but the scoreline probably doesn't really tell the whole story. I think if you look at the stats for this, I mean, some people place a lot of status in stats. Some people don't. I don't always. But if you look on XG here, Bahia had a 1.93 on XG, which is almost 2 goals without scoring, which is pretty unlucky, really. And Palmeiras had 0.86. So Bahia were well ahead in that. They had more shots as well than Palmeiras. And the game really spun on kind of a few minutes at the end of the first half. And it was 2 really poor errors by the Bahia midfielder, Jean Lucas, who he had the chance to put Bahia ahead. And I don't know if you've seen it, George. I suspect you maybe haven't. It was it's an inexcusable miss. He gets put through by some brilliant play from Bahia. One-touch football sets him beyond the defence. He's 1-on-1 with Weverton. And actually, he's 2-on-1 with Weverton because he's got a teammate just to his right-hand side who he can easily square it to for a tap-in, or he can take the shot on. He's 1-on-1. He's probably about 15 yards out. He's got to score. The Palmeiras defence have stopped. Nobody's moving. Nobody's coming towards him. They're just waiting for the net to bulge. And he puts it wide. He kind of lofts it, shanks it a bit past the post. He doesn't even hit the target. And it's a shocking miss. And it would have put them 1-0 up. And just a couple of minutes after that, Bahia at a corner, it comes out to Jean Lucas on the edge of the box, and he for want of a better phrase, he shits his pants, George. Unfortunately,
there was a bit of a trail on the pitch, was there?
There was a trail all over the pitch because he tries to loft it into the box, and he kind of catches the ball with his studs. He kind of plays it towards the edge of the Palmeiras area, and eventually it gets cleared. I think it's a first-time pass or a second-time pass up towards Estevão Willian, who, again, we're going to speak about, and he eventually gets the goal. So within a couple of minutes, Jean Lucas should have scored to put them 1-0 up, didn't, and then essentially gifted the ball to Palmeiras for them to go and break and score. And from then on, I think the result was pretty inevitable. Although Weatherton, it looks like in the Palmeiras goal, had a brilliant game. He made a couple of really big stops late on to keep Bahia out. But yeah, Jean Lucas a bit unfortunate. Maybe Rogerio Ceni. Obviously, you've been a big fan of him during this season, George. He said after the game, he just said he was unlucky, unfortunate. One of those things, which it was. But if you watch those highlights back, he really should be hitting the target. And you can't afford to miss those chances against Palmeiras, especially when they're in this kind of form. So yeah, it was kind of disappointing from their point of view. But again, I think the turning point from Bahia's point of view was Jean Lucas. From Palmeiras' point of view was Estevan Willian. I mean, he was absolutely sensational, really. It was a great performance, and I don't want to say too much because we will go into a bit more detail on him afterwards. But yeah, fantastic performance from him. And I know there was another notable moment which you messaged me about, George, and I was a bit baffled as to what you were talking about before I watched the highlights. So I don't know. I'll let you cover this one, the second goal for Palmeiras, which was a kind of a nice finish actually from Ronnie, the striker. But what was more notable about the goal was his celebration, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, James. I mean, Ronnie, I think Ronnie seems to score quite a plenty of goals, really. Actually, he's only got 3. I thought he'd had more than that actually this season. But
he's in a bit of a sticky season.
Yeah, but like you said, again, it's Estevao, isn't it, with the cross ball, isn't it, the square ball, and he just he puts it in. Like you said, it's a smart finish, and then he runs to the sideline, and you've got it there behind you, haven't you, James? Somebody passes him this pig mask, and he just puts it on, and it looks a bit sinister, really, doesn't it? But he puts it on, he puts his hands out and celebrates, but it was a bit strange. I mean, we've seen a couple of, the fella behind me has done it, hasn't he, with the Wakanda mask earlier on in the season. It seems a little bit of a theme for some players, but yeah, it was a bit strange. But there you go. I like I said, I gave you a message with a pig emoji, and you were like, "What do you mean?" And then obviously I said, "Well, you'll see once you see it." So that's what happened.
It became pretty clear, and actually, yeah, the masks. We like a good mask, don't we? I was watching to see if Enrique pulled out his mask, but he didn't do it, did he? I don't know why he didn't. Maybe he'd already thought he's been upstaged already. It was after the Ronnie goal, wasn't it? So maybe he thought too many masks in one weekend. But actually, it was a tribute by Ronnie. It was a tribute for a former Palmeiras player called Paulo Nunes, who is, I think, a commentator now, it seems, on for Palmeiras. But it was a tribute to him. He used to score, and he had if you look at him on YouTube, Paulo Nunes, he had all kinds of celebrations, loads of weird shit, and yeah, the pig mask seems to be one of his numbers, and it does look a bit sinister. But so Ronnie said after the game, "I send a hug to Paulo Nunes. He has a fan here. I was watching his videos. I thought the celebration was cool. I wanted to do it before, but I didn't have the opportunity." So there you go. I think that's a nod a bit to his lack of goals as well this season, and it was obviously something he'd wanted to do. And I wouldn't be complaining too much if we don't see it again. I think a lot of the viewers will probably agree that it's something about a pig mask like that doesn't quite. It's quite unsettling for some reason, and I wouldn't be too unhappy if we don't see that again. But anyway,
we don't want to give the viewers on YouTube nightmares here, do we? But
no, I'll cover that one up again. I'll move.
It does look a bit like you said. I don't think I think I agree with you, James. I won't be too displeased if we didn't see that one come out again. He's done it now. Do something else for your next one. But it does seem like the masks are quite a theme for these players to after for celebrations. But it was a tidy finish as well, wasn't it, from him as well?
Yeah, it was. It was a nice finish, and it's probably timely as well because I was reading that Palmeiras are looking at the transfer window. It looks like they might have an agreement for Gabigol Barbosa, who's obviously not playing at Flamengo too much. He's he's looking around for his next club, and I think he's quite fortunate perhaps to get a move if he does get a move to Palmeiras. But the sticking point is that Palmeiras want him in January on a free transfer. If they want him now, they're going to have to pay a fee for him. So it remains to be seen. It seems that they're pretty certain that they will get him, but whether it's in January on a free or whether it's now with a transfer fee, we just have to wait and see. But yeah, perhaps timely for Ronnie to remind everybody just how good he is. But like I said, the story of the game was Estevan Willian. And for Bahia, sorry, actually, Palmeiras have actually made another signing. I'll just touch on quickly. They signed a chap called Mauricio from Internacional, and it's the second most expensive signing in their history. 23-year-old attacking midfielder. He's just been unveiled at the Allianz Parque. So that's another good signing for them and good signs for them. So Palmeiras actually up to second and just a point now behind Flamengo, who obviously drew. And the level on points with Botafogo. So there's a top three emerging there. 1 point between the top three, which is what we like to see. And yeah, Palmeiras cooking on gas. For Bahia, they've actually, despite how good they've been, George, they haven't won away in 5 games now. So away form is kind of suffering, and away form is where they're kind of coming unstuck. But as we've said before, they're only 3 points behind. They are in 5th. Sao Paulo have gone ahead of them, but they're still only 4 points off the top. The top isn't something they should really be aiming for. We know that Seni has had them playing and getting results against teams that perhaps they wouldn't have been expected to get results against. Again, it didn't really work out for them, but on another day, it could have done. Jean Lucas puts that goal in and doesn't make the mistake, and they go on to win it. Weverton, like I say, was in really good form. 1 or 2 of those go in, and all of a sudden it is a different game. So I think they gave as good as they got, and I think the feeling after the game from Bahia fans was that Palmeiras are a team who are kind of built and already there. Bahia are more a team in progress and a team that are aiming to get there. And I don't think there was anybody too disheartened after this game.
No, well, they shouldn't be, James, should they? Like we said before, they're batting above the weight a little bit. They're doing well. They might not have won away in 5, but the previous form has said they can do it. And like you said, on another day, it could have been another result. So they just got to keep going, and they'll put the marker down. Maybe they'll expect continental competition next season, but they'll just got to keep going in different form. But when you're losing to teams like Palmeiras away, it's probably expected. And when you're giving them a good game, that's all you can expect. Something I just picked up about this game, James, and not so much about the game, but I don't know if you saw it either. But on the Instagram account for Palmeiras, they seem to have a bit of a love affair with the Minions. I'm not sure why, but there was. I don't know if you're a fan of the films at all, James. I would have said you were, but you never know.
I've not seen any of them actually. I never even saw the first one. So actually, I find them quite annoying, to be quite honest with you. I don't get the obsession with those Minions.
Well, so do I, but. It just seemed a little bit. I don't know what was going on, but they had a life-size minion with the Palmeiras mascots, as well as the I don't know what you call the professor guy there, whatever his name. The professor in the film. I don't know what he's called.
I don't know.
But
Steve Carell.
Yeah.
Steve Carell.
Yeah. But he was with them as well, and they were like messing about on the pitch a bit. Also, there was like an AI thing on the Instagram account with minions with holding up Palmeiras flags and things. And then also, I think Esteval got the man of the match, but instead of giving him like a little trophy, had a little minion given to him for like I think he must have won man of the match, but he's holding up this little minion. So there was some kind of something going on with I couldn't these things are obviously all in Portuguese, and I can't really fathom what the heck's going on, but there was something to do with minions and Despicable Me on that game. Obviously they won, and we move on to see what they get up to in the next one.
Yeah, maybe there's I think there might be a new film or something. I'm not a fan of all that, but I do like him holding up the little minion. He is a bit of a minion, isn't he? What I noticed
Well,
about that Palmeiras game, I don't know why they were wearing the away shirt. They didn't have the home shirt on, and I don't really understand why. Because Bahia, there was no clash, but they for some reason went with that kind of that day glow yellow and green one. They were all nice shirts, actually. To be fair, those Palmeiras ones this season, but the home one is a beautiful kit, that green with the gold. And I don't quite know why they did that. But anyway, let's move on, George, because we could talk about minions all day. But we are going to keep with this game because we're going to talk about the player of the round. And actually, there's a Talking Brazil ball first this week. There wasn't a great many contenders for player of the round. And I think, to be honest, both of the top two contenders probably were the young players, young player of the round. So I won't touch on the second one because I'll touch on him for young player of the round. And I think instead we'll just plough straight on and explain why we've broken the Talking Brazil ball mould and given the player of the round to Estevão Willian.
Yeah, I mean, there was a bit of a debate, wasn't there, James? And I threw forward Veron from Cruzeiro, who also got the same sort of goal contributions as Estevão in this game, a goal and an assist. But when you're looking at the goals and assists, it was nothing special really from him. And Estevão, I was thinking, do we give him the young player? But then there's another lad who we'll speak about in a little while who I think deserved it a little bit more. So that only leaves one, and he's got to have the play of the round. So there you go.
I mean, it shows just the level that he's at. You don't think of him as a young player anymore. I mean, to be fair, if he's been the young player of the round, give him the young player of the round. But we do like to talk about the different players and have a look at different players and different teams. And it's not always fun to give it to the same player. And you just have to say that's an indictment of just how good he is. And I've got a few quotes here, George, about Estevão Willian, because the goal that he scored was sensational again. I mean, like I said, there was a mistake from Jean Lucas, but he gets, I don't know who set him away, but the ball forward, and he runs from inside his own half, chases the ball and catches up with it just on the angle of the area and basically dances. Defender doesn't really know which way he's going. In the end, he shifts it onto his left foot, which he does like to do, and he bends it into the top corner. It's a beautiful goal. And if you watch the highlights of the goal, it pans to Rogério Ceni just afterwards, and he's walking back from the technical area back to his bench, shaking his head at the bench. And I saw somebody saying he says something that, you can see him saying something along the lines of, "You can't mark this guy," or something like that. He's Ceni's just saying, "Flipping it, we can't keep a hold of him. He's too slippery." And he just seems to have this kind of balance and way of luring the defender. His feet are really quick. He himself is quick. He's got a great shot on him, great technique. So there was another bit of praise from Everton Ribeiro, who was a Flamengo legend, I think, playing for Bahia, and he said that he's the biggest revelation of his age in recent years. Sorry, that was the commentators who said that. Everton Ribeiro said he has a great career ahead of him, basically. He said, he complimented him after the game and told him, "Look, you've got a great career ahead of you." Ceni as well, even after his comments, said after the game, he said he's a special player. He likened him to Lucas Moura at Sao Paulo, which I'm not sure how much of a compliment that is, but he also compared him to Neymar at Santos, and that's obviously much more of a compliment. So he said he's very talented and has everything to be one of the greatest. So what do you make of those quotes, George, and how far do you think Estevão Willian can go in the game? Obviously, he's going to Chelsea, so he's going pretty far.
Well, I mean, those comments are sensational, aren't they? And it's on on top of other ones that have probably gone before in his performances. He's doing it consistently. Like you said, he's going to Chelsea in, next summer, and it's one that obviously Chelsea fans will really be rubbing their hands together, and also obviously fans of the Premier League, as a whole. If he continues to do that, it's of a different level. He's obviously a different level to this competition that he's currently in. Even at just gone 17, it's clear. How much of a stamp he can make on the Premier League, well, that's another thing. If he can go and do what he's doing now in a Chelsea shirt in the Champions League, should they get there, at the moment they're nowhere near it, then yeah, he can go to the top. Obviously, he'll be in Brazil colours at some point within the next few months, I'd say. And then, the sky's the limit for him. He can go as far as he wants to go. If he knuckles his head down, knuckles down and gets on with it. Clearly the Chelsea move has given him all sorts of confidence, which is great to see. He's taken on the mantle where Hendrick obviously had other things on his mind at the start of the season. Palmeries didn't start well. I feel like that was quite a big thing towards why they weren't starting well. The way they hang on so much on these young players, and Hendrick, just his mind was probably just on Madrid, which is fair enough. But Esteval's there for the whole season, James. So, maybe he can go away with another Brazilian in his pocket and head on to Chelsea. For me, I don't know why he's gone to Chelsea, but it's a pull of London, I think, maybe, and and all the money that he's getting, maybe. But for me, I'd have looked on for something else, I think.
Well, it is. I mean, you mentioned about the Premier League fans looking forward to seeing him. It is rare, actually, that we have a player like that come to England. I mean, obviously, you want to be wary of putting too much on him, but as you said, he is really doing it consistently. He seems to be turning up every week, and it wasn't just the goal; it was his whole performance. He looked dangerous. The Bahia defenders didn't know what to do with him. The assist is lovely square ball across for Ronnie, who obviously. Doesn't make a pig's ear of it, sticks it in, and then makes his pig out of it. But Esteval made that goal as well, and he is turning up consistently, and he looks a cut above everybody in this league at the moment. And like you say, he just looks so full of confidence, and it is rare that we see a young talent like that. You think of them in the past, even in the recent past, Vinicius Junior, Rodrigo, who I think of a similar level. Neymar obviously was a step above it again, even that. But Rodrigo, Vinicius are the two who have really come on recently, and we don't see him go to the Premier League directly as teenagers. So it'll be interesting how he makes that step up, because it will be a big step up and it will be very different for him. But for the time being, you can only say good things about him. I mean, you mentioned Hendrick there. I mean, your mate Bielsa mentioned the two players in a press conference after Uruguay beat Brazil on penalties in the Copa America, which we should mention as well. Actually, Brazil are out. And I couldn't really get the grasp of what he was trying to say, Bielsa. I mean, I didn't see a great translation of it, I think, but he did mention about, I think he was trying to say something about putting too much pressure on the young players. Hendrick didn't have a good game for Brazil, and he did mention Esteval in passing as well. But that's the thing, isn't it? Keep his feet on the ground and he'll go far. But yeah, he is this week's player of the round, and he's broken new ground. He's won the young player of the round before. I can't remember if he's won the goal of the round, but he might have done. So we'll have to check on that. He could be the first player to do a clean sweep.
He hasn't won the goal around just yet, generally. He could have done for this one, to be fair, but he's scored some lovely goals, but like you said, 4 goals in his last 7 games, James. He seems to be, like you said, doing it consistently, and he's on everybody's lips at the moment. And like I said, if Bielsa's talking about him as well, then yeah, he tends to know what he's talking about as well. So yeah, good luck to him and good luck to him next season at Chelsea. Like I said, if you've got a pick of the teams, I'd maybe have tried to maybe hang on for something else, but what can you do? He's a young lad, and he's going to try his luck at the Premier League. So good luck to him. Yeah. But I'm sure he'll win it at one stage, James. As the season goes on, he will definitely win the goal of the round, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'd imagine he will as well. So well done to Esteval. He keeps delighting everybody in Brazil and beyond. So young player of the round.
He keeps delighting us as well, I think, with those performances and those good.
We're part of beyond, aren't we? I guess
I suppose.
We're being delighted, aren't we, for sure? Absolutely. So, like you said, for the young player of the round, Varane at Cruzeiro was a real contender. I mean, you weren't too impressed with his assist. I thought it was quite nice, actually, quite a brave little header. Flicked it through to Matheus Pereira, who we should mention is in great form as well for Cruzeiro. He took that goal really well, I thought. But Varane as well obviously got a goal. He's a very young player. Doing well for Cruzeiro. There were some other candidates for young player of the round, I thought, as well. Cuiabano, who was in the conversation a couple of weeks ago for a goal, got another goal for Botafogo, which we might touch on again as part of the goal of the round, because it was a lovely goal. So Cuyabano's in decent form. I tipped him at the start of the season to be a bit of a breakout star for Gremio, as it turned out, but he's been in good form for Botafogo, and I think he's possibly one to watch in terms of a move to Europe. But in terms of the young player of the round, George, we've had another breakout star this week. We had one last week. You might recall Vitor Reis was the game winner for Palmeries and was the young player of the round. And we had another centre back this weekend, making his debut in the Brasileirão and winning the young player of the round. Do you want to introduce this young man?
Well, I would, James. I mean, I don't know a great deal about him, to be fair, other than his name. The man named Lincoln from Vasco da Gama, another one from Vasco, James. We had Estrella win it a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? He's now injured. But Lincoln now comes on and he grabbed a goal. I think he's a centre mid, is he?
I thought he was a centre back, actually.
Oh, he's a centre back. Sorry, yes, he's a centre back. So, 19-year-old centre back. So it was his first Serie A appearance. Came on at half time in the win over Inter, grabbed himself a goal, and which ended up being, if you like, the winning goal. Put them 2-0 up before Inter got one back, but it ended 2-1, of course. So yeah, he wins the young player of the round this time, James Lincoln, and it was a lovely goal as well. I mean, the goalkeeper maybe could have done better. Was it a near post header that he saved, and then Lincoln kind of just gets his head on it and puts it in. The goalkeeper gets a touch but can't keep it out. But fair play, was in that position. He got himself a goal.
Yeah, it was like a rebound, wasn't it? He got it really early, I noticed. He was a good header because there was no power on the kind of the save from the goalie. And he has to really direct it back in, and keeper really should have done better, probably on the initial save as well. But yeah, he got up there, and like I said, it ended up being the winner. I mean, we seem to have these young players coming on over recent days. Like you said, Estrella, I think it was his debut. Vitor Reis was his debut, and again, Lincoln. So these young players are really turning up when it matters. And I think it's worth pointing out that Vasco are just an absolute haven at the minute for young players. I mean, Lincoln comes on in that game and obviously gets the winner. And they also had Leandrinho, who started at left back. He's only 19. My mate JP also was starting another game, so he's become a bit of a key player for them. Ryan came off the bench, who we've looked at before, 17-year-old. They even had a 16-year-old on the bench, Bruno Lopez, who didn't come on, but he's only 16 and on the bench there. So, you know, they have a bit of a reputation, Vasco, for producing these young players. And this season, having been in a really difficult situation in terms of league position, they've turned to the young players and they've absolutely bailed them out. And they haven't given the manager the job yet, Rafael Paiva, who's there on an interim basis. I was looking and they still haven't committed to him to taking over, but I think it seems to be a matter of time before he gets the job. I think they're speaking to other coaches, the director or the owner, or somebody was saying the president maybe, but Paiva seems to be in with a chance. They're unbeaten in 3. They've really turned it around since they sacked Pacheco, and they look good, and it's all because of the young players.
Yeah, like you said, there's so many young players in there, James, in that squad. It's unbelievable, really. But yeah, you know, there's so many of them. Like I said, it's only a matter of time, perhaps, that he gets a job on a permanent basis. They're now kind of, you know, getting away from the relegation zone a little bit. Couple of wins in a row. You know, so they're starting to move in the right direction, which is good to see because. I don't think either of us, you know, want to see them down there, really, to be honest.
No, I've got half a mind to switch back to supporting Vasco. You know, I still haven't quite decided. I really do like them. And I do like that young player ethos. And obviously, well, they were playing my team in this game. So it was a bit of a kind of a pull on the kind of which way do I want to go on that one. But I think it's worth pointing out that we thought for a while that Ramon Diaz was going to go back to Vasco, and he's actually gone to Corinthians. So last time we spoke, Corinthians were looking for the new manager. We thought it was going to be the chap from Santos, but it hasn't been. It's been Ramon Diaz, and obviously they got a battering this week, didn't they? I think they won the first game possibly with him. I don't know if he was in for the win over Vitória midweek, but he was certainly in charge. I'm just having a look here. If he was, they always seem to have a new manager bounce, and I'm not sure if he was in or not. It doesn't seem to say. No, I don't think he was actually. I think his first game was this time, and they got absolutely smacked, didn't they? So Vasco, he was off the table for them. Sapaiva might be the leading candidate. I'd say give it him. I mean, he's doing a wonderful job. But in terms of Inter, you were saying the other day, you texted me, didn't you, George? You said, I think Cadet might be in trouble. And I said, come on. He's had a difficult start, with the cancellations and everything. And I don't think they'll sack him on the back of 3 games without a win, but that's now 4 games without a win. And this was a really poor result for them. And to be fair, I was reading that there were boos at full time for Inter and Cadet. This was their first game back home, actually, at the Palmeries Stadium of Light, isn't it? That was their first game back in 70 days since the flooding in Rio Grande do Sul. So big game for them, a big day for them, and the fans have chosen that to voice their discontent and boo the team at the end of the game. So what do you make of that, George? Maybe you'll be right with that then. It doesn't sound... Cadet was a bit kind of philosophical about it. I think he was a bit frustrated after the game, and he blamed injuries and the tight schedule. I know Enner Valencia's been away at the Copa America. He's coming back for them this week. They've got a huge cup tie against Juventude, obviously a local rivalry over the next couple of weeks. So that might determine, I think, whether he stays or goes. But that was one you were tipping, and it looks like you might be right. And he needs to turn it around quickly.
Yeah, look, I don't, like I said, I don't think he's got long left at all, James. This sort of gap in sort of Brazilian action for Inter might do him a little bit of good just to regroup. Like you said, they've got the 2-legged cup tie against Juventude, and then they've got Sudamericana action against Rosario Central. They're not actually playing in the Serie A until 11 days from recording here now. Away at Botafogo, so they've got a few days, a week and a half till the next Serie A league action. I know they've got 3 games in between that, but it might just give him time, just a bit of pressure off maybe in the cup. I don't know what he's going to prioritise, but he needs to. They need to get some kind of win from any of them games. I know it's not league games, but they need something, because otherwise, if they're coming back into league action in sort of 11 days' time with Botafogo, not won any of them games, I don't think he'll be there personally.
I think they've got a real trouble in that. Obviously, I sympathise with him because they've only played 13 games, which is the lowest in the league. A couple of other teams have played 13 as well, but they're actually not. They're going to miss two games now because of the cancellations of the cup games earlier in the season. So, some teams will have played 17 and they'll still be on 13. So you can't get a true gauge of where they're really at. So I do sympathise with him, but once the fans start booing, I feel like it's kind of you're in the end zone really, then, aren't you? And that'll be a shame. I say I'm thinking about Vasco. I do want to commit to Inter. I want to be that, an Inter fan, but they are making it slightly difficult this kind of season. The games aren't really being played and all this kind of stuff. So we'll see how he gets on. I mean, it'll be a big game, that cup game, and I do wonder whether he might be better off prioritising that. But anyway, let's move on, George. That was so the young player of the round goes to Lincoln first. First win for him, first game for him. So there's only, it's a great place to start for him. The goal of the round as well, we've covered the game quite considerably there because there were 3 absolute belters in your game. And the goal that we've chosen in the end does come from that. Just before we touch on all of those 3 goals, were there any others that kind of caught your eye throughout the rest of the games? I thought there were some good ones, actually.
Well, to be honest with you, James, none of them really took my fancy, to be honest. The one that did, or the one that, I will pick out that did, was Julimar, the winger, I think, from Paranense. Yeah, the forward man, the left winger from Paranense, young fella, only 23. I thought this one was the pick of the bunch, other than the game, the Botafogo match for me. It was just a nice little flicked header on. It was a route one sort of bang up from the goalkeeper. Nice flick on, but it was a nice sort of first time kind of lofted finish into the top corner from Julimar. And I thought that was nice. But other than that, to be honest, James, I think the one was one of the goals, the Juventud, I think it was either the first or the second goal, I quite enjoyed. But it wasn't enough to get me off my seat and say, hey, that was brilliant. I think definitely the goal of the round came in the Botafogo game. I did enjoy Esteval's goal as well. But for me, all three of the goals in this game that I covered were 1, 2, and 3 in terms of goal of the round for me.
I'm a bit surprised by that. I don't, because you usually get excited about some quite poor goals, I would say. Or, you say, oh, that was a good goal. Watch it. You think, well, I thought there were some really good goals in this. That Juventud one was nice. It was like a P-roller from outside the area, Gilberto. There was another nice goal. I thought their second goal was pretty good as well. João Lucas, like a snap left-footed finish.
That was I liked that one. Yeah, I liked that one, yeah.
I thought Adson for Vasco, the first goal for Vasco, that was a lovely little dribbled around the defender, nice quick feet, and then poked it in kind of unexpectedly with his left foot. That was a nice goal, I thought, as well. Alvaro Barreal for Cruzeiro. The first goal was a bit of a long range, a left-footed strike. That was quite nice too. The one that I'd pick out as probably being, I think you're probably right, though, 1, 2, and 3, I reckon, were probably Botafogo goals. But I liked as well our man, who's becoming a favourite of ours, Luis Fernando for Atletico Goianense. He's got another one, George. He's got 3 and 3 now. He won the goal of the round before that for an absolute smashing goal against Fluminense. And then he's got 3 and 3. And this one is, you're never really sure with those ones where it's a run from their own half because, I always remember that Ben Arthur goal for Newcastle, and I always thought it's not that good. He basically beats one man and then he's in on goal. And this was a bit like that. He basically runs from inside his own half, but he essentially just outpaces the defender. There's only one defender with him the whole way. And then it's a really nice finish. He runs in a straight line all the way up the pitch and then finishes it nicely. I thought that was a really good goal. And you don't see goals like that all that often. And I just thought Luis Fernando, we spoke about him being a good goal scorer. And they lost in the end, didn't they, Goianense, but against Paranense. And I agree with that Paranense one. That was a great finish as well. It was one of those where, I don't know if you've ever seen that Luis Suarez goal against, I think it's Juventus. And he gets through on goal and he butts it top corner when he's one-on-one with the keeper, and everyone goes, it's the most unnecessary top bins goal ever. He kind of puts it top corner. And this was a bit like that. He kind of buried it top corner. I like that one. But yeah, Luis Fernando, sorry. But yeah, you go on, George. You talk us through those 3 goals, and you can do a bronze, silver, gold, if you like, from Botafogo.
All right, well, I'll do that then, James, if you
Why
like.
not?
So I suppose in the third, bronze position, if you like, would be your man, Cuyabano.
I think he should have got silver, but go on.
It's a nice finish, isn't it? Where, I think it's the second goal of the game, isn't it? Where I think he receives it on his chest outside the box, chests it down and volleys it. Almost in the same.
It's kind of a
like. Oh yeah, it was almost like the same sort of movement, wasn't it? Like sort of barge the defender out the way and just chests it or thighs it or whatever, then volleys it in. It is a nice finish. I think for me, the goalkeeper might have done a little bit. It's on his side. I don't understand maybe why he didn't get to that shot. But Cuyabano, like you said before, James, he's doing well. I think he was, wasn't he rumored to be attracting interest from Europe? Was it Torino?
Yeah, it was Torino.
I think in the winter. In the winter time, wasn't it? So, yeah, he's starting to let people know he's still about as well. I think in second position of those goals, I'll have to give Henrique. This was again, it was nice goal, but I think again he was unchallenged, wasn't he? And he had plenty of time to pick his spot. And he curls the ball into the top corner, from just outside the box, isn't it? It's a nice goal. It's another nice goal, James. And but the winner of it has to be Severino. Who again, it's almost similar to Henrique's, to be honest. Different end of the pitch, just kind of bends another one into the top corner. So they're all a bit bendy ones, these ones, and It just sort of, I think it's right-footed into it, bends it into the top corner. The keeper's nowhere near it. And you've got to say Severino, who'd just come back from the Copa America with Venezuela, former Galo, former Rooster, so he didn't celebrate. He just kind of puts his hands up and all of his teammates are going towards him. It's in the 94th minute, I think. The game's already done, James, but it's a lovely way to top off a dominant performance from Botafogo. He'd only come on in the 72nd minute, I think, as well, Severino. So he didn't have much joy really with Venezuela at the Copa America. He started, I think, the first game, or I think he started the second game actually against Mexico. Obviously, Venezuela won all 3 of their group games. Then he only played, I think, 12 minutes over the space of the other 2 games. Missed his penalty in the shootout against Canada, which they eventually lost. So, bit of disappointment from him. But only a couple of days afterwards, he's back in Brazil and scoring goals like that. He's won our player of the round before. End of April, he won it in. So yeah, he's no stranger to our awards either, but he wins it this time for the goal of the round, and deserved in my opinion.
I thought he'd won. One of them before, because I remember looking at him. He's actually got 3 goals and 1 assist this season in just 4 starts in the Brazilian Serie A. So he's not nailed on starter, but he does seem to deliver when he does start. So yeah, really good goals. Kind of a standing start, and he really whips it into the other side of the goal. It was a lovely finish, and I'd say a deserving winner of goal of the round. So well done to Savarino, hopefully making up for some of that disappointment at the Copa America. So those are the awards, George, this week. I think, again, in the upcoming week, looking ahead, we've got another game week of 2 fixtures. It seems to be every week nowadays, doesn't it? So just before we look ahead to next week, do you want to run through those fixtures that we've got? So there's one game week, I think, with 8 games, isn't there? And then, there's not 2, is there? There's one, and then there's another one kind of ongoing as we do the next pod. Anyway, you want to run through the fixtures up until we meet next Tuesday?
Yeah, so basically, James, there's another match day, an 8-game match day instead of a 10-game match day, which starts tomorrow evening, Wednesday evening, as of recording, Wednesday the 10th of July. Grêmio face Cruzeiro at 10:30 English time. Atletico Paranaense then play Bahia at 11 p.m. English time. Also at the same time, Vasco play Corinthians. Into Thursday, the 11th of July, Palmeries take on Atletico Go at 11:30 p.m. English time. And then 12th of July, Friday morning, midnight here, Criciúma host Fluminense. Flamengo also host Fortaleza at the same time. 1:30 a.m. then Galo, in much need of a win, of course, face off against Sao Paulo. And at the same time, Vitória host Botafogo. Then, James, into a next round of fixtures that we will meet sort of halfway, if you like. Saturday, the 13th of July, Bahia host Cuiabá and Cruzeiro host Red Bull Bragantino at 8 p.m. English time. And then we will see and meet again on the Tuesday, halfway through that match week, which is again another 8-game week, I think.
Yep, so 8 games before we meet next time. I think we'll pick out, what we'll do now is we'll pick out, instead of predetermining the games of the games of the week, what we're going to do is pick them out live on air. Well, live, as it reaches you. So, George, what are you going to pick from those 8 games? There's obviously not a full round. There's a few games that kind of stand out in some way. So what would you pick and why for that one?
Well, it's a funny one, James, this, isn't it? It's a funny way of doing it because, of course, we don't know which one we're kind of looking at. I'm looking at the Galo game, I think, against Sao Paulo. Sao Paulo are going incredibly well, James. 4 wins in a row. They're sitting in 4th position. I think they're, 4 points off the top now. So, I think I'd kind of like to have another look at them. But what about you?
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think that also caught my eye as a good one, but I was looking at a different one. I was looking at Vasco against Corinthians. So yeah, I'm gonna cover the Vasco game. I just saw Vasco with those young players. They're just really purring. I think at the moment, I'm interested to see where they go with it. And also, Corinthians are badly in need of a win. Obviously, they got that win midweek that they really needed against Vittoria, which we didn't cover. And then, as we've only touched on briefly, they got absolutely hammered by Cruzeiro. So they're still down in the relegation zone at the minute, and they really could do with picking up something. And I've got a feeling that Vasco might pick them off again, to be honest. So I'm interested in that. Vasco can kind of start pushing on up the table. If they do win that, they'll be heading in towards the top half. So yeah, that's going to be my game of the week, Vasco against Corinthians, I think.
Fair enough, James. So I'll go with Galo, Sao Paulo. Then there is also Flamengo, Fortaleza. That's a bit intriguing to me as well. I think Fortaleza the last couple of games, and also that big win over Palmeries not too long ago, are starting to improve a little bit. So that one's maybe one to look at as well. I think only one defeat now in the last 5, so they're improving. So maybe one to keep an eye on as well.
Yep, they've won 3 out of 4. Fortaleza up to 8th. Flamengo obviously at top of the table still, but did draw against Cuiabá. So the pressure's on them from both Botafogo and Palmeiras. So yeah, I think we'll hopefully have plenty to talk about from that one as well. Right then, before we end, George, we've come up to the end of another show. Been another good show, I think. Do you want to run through the table just to let everybody know what's going on in the Brasileirão in terms of standings, the stuff that really matters?
Well, I can do, James, but beforehand, I suppose we just speak briefly about the Copa America, I suppose. Obviously, Brazil lost, didn't they? Brazil are out. They lost on penalties, didn't they, to the Uruguay, Bielsa's Uruguay. So that's probably the last time, James, I guess we'll speak of the Copa America on the show, possibly.
Perhaps, yeah. I mean, it wasn't a vintage one, I don't think, by any means from Brazil. I think a lot of people saw it coming that they wouldn't be up there challenging. I think Uruguay and Colombia both look pretty impressive. Argentina have found themselves on a pretty favourable side of the draw, really. And you'd imagine they're playing very early tomorrow morning, so you'd imagine they'd get to the final. Colombia-Uruguay should be a great game, really, those two teams. And Brazil obviously couldn't beat Colombia either. But, I think the 0-0 against Uruguay wasn't, I mean, they didn't get beat. I think that Uruguay seemed like they were the better side. I saw my man Alisson coming in for a lot of heat from fans for not being able to save enough in the penalty shootout, but he saved one. Douglas Luiz missed a penalty, Eder Militao missed a penalty. I think the quality just isn't quite there from Brazil. And like you said, I think players like Estevão, maybe younger players coming in, they need a bit of that generation to come and disrupt things, because I think at the minute they're looking a bit stodgy. They're not looking particularly exciting. And obviously Ronaldinho came out before the tournament and slammed the quality on offer of them. And I don't know what you think, but it seemed to go about what was expected, I think, really. That doesn't mean it wasn't disappointing, but I think it was about what everybody was expecting.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think, like you said, I don't think anybody really expected them to go all the way this time. I think the team's still in a little bit of transition. Obviously, a new manager, Donival Jr., is still getting to know the players. He's not been there for too long before the competition started. So, yeah, bit of transition for them. Like you said, maybe likes of Estevão and one or two others can really make them tick a little bit better in the future, but certainly not their competition this time.
No, so we'll see who wins it. I've got a feeling that your man Bielsa might be lifting the trophy, but we'll see what happens come next. I think it's Sunday or Monday morning. I think very early Monday morning might be the final. But let's see. We'll look at it next week and see what happened anyway. But yeah, George, let's run through the table just before we finish, and that'll see us off for another week, I think.
Yeah, fair enough, James. It'll be a pleasure of mine again. So, top of the table is Flamengo on 31 points. Second, a point behind is Botafogo. In third, also on 30 points, is Palmeiras. 3 points behind on 27. In fourth place is Sao Paulo. On the same amount of points, 27, is Bahia in fifth position. 2 points behind them in sixth position is Atletico Paranaense. With 23 points is Cruzeiro in seventh. In eighth position is Fortaleza, also on 23 points. Ninth position, RB Bragantino on 22. In 10th is Inter on 19. 11th is Juventude, also on 19. In 12th with 18 points is Galo. In 13th with 17 points is Vasco. 14th is Criciúma with 16 points. 15th is Vitória on 15 points. In 16th position is Cuiabá on 14 points. Into relegation zone, James, 17th position is Corinthians on 12 points. 11 points is Grêmio in 18th. In 19th is Atletico Go on 11 points. And stuck to the bottom, I think only a point better off than we last spoke, is Fluminense. They're on 7 points, James.
Yeah, Flu are still yet to really get going at all. Menezes is now 2 games, 1 point. It's not looking good for them, but let's see. There's still time to turn it around. Anyway, in the meantime, George, that wraps up another healthy episode, doesn't it? We've enjoyed ourselves there, I think, and all that's left to say is for everybody to enjoy the rest of enjoy the rest of the week, enjoy the Copa America and the Euros, and we'll catch everybody next time. Adios.
Adios, everyone. Have a good week.
Talking Brazil ball, we're breaking it down. Bringing the passion from every town. Let the world be filled with love tonight. Sway to the beat, make you feel so right. Summer vibes, we're dancing in the